foreign policy presented by YTV shows. I am Shakya, your host in this journey where we create a platform to think and talk about foreign policy in Nepal from a holistic perspective. Foreign policy is that show where we as individuals can create a voice and cause an impact on the decisions that affect us and the world. It has been widely agreed that the foreign policy of any nation should be focused on the protection and promotion of national interests of sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity, and economic diplomacy. One of the ways of securing this interest is strengthening of bilateral relations. On this episode today, we shall talk about bilateral relations between Fiji and Nepal, which started in 1986. On March 23, 2014, the relationship found its new strength with the opening of Consulate Office of Fiji in Nepal. On this episode, we have as our guest a young entrepreneur turned honorary consul, Mr. Shakya, who happens to be the youngest honorary consul for Fiji in Nepal. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
First of all, I would like to congratulate you for being the youngest honorary consul to Fiji from Nepal, and
thank you.
On behalf of the YTV shows as well.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell us briefly about the journey, how it happened from being a young entrepreneur to an honorary consul? Can you briefly tell us what was the journey like?
Well, before taking into the diplomatic duties, I was working as the executive director of BL Conglomerate, which is the sister concern of Chaudhary Group. And I'm looking after the education sector of my company. And my father-in-law, Mr. Basan Chaudhary, is the Consul General of Morocco as well. So it happened that one of the parties, one of the diplomatic parties, I happened to meet His Excellency Mr. Yogesh Karan, and he was actually looking for a consular for Fiji and Nepal. And we spoke through a few things, and things turned out good, I guess.
Can you tell us briefly about what you think, why was it that you wanted to become why did you take up this job, just to put it briefly? I mean, were you always interested in diplomatic missions and consular missions? What made you think that this is your job to take?
To be very honest, this was not something that I always looked forward to. I mean, I was happy with my business or whatever that I was learning at that point, because I joined business as soon as I completed my studies. But, going through the things, and this is, the thing about this diplomatic process, it's not just political thing. It's something that you can, like you've said, as a young person, can put out your ideas and your perspective into picture and try to get things done which would bring out better results for your own country as well as the country that you're affiliated to, for this instance Fiji. So yeah.
Okay, a small country between Hawaii and New Zealand, completely waterlocked, and we are landlocked.
Yes.
What similarities do you see? I see major differences in Nepal and Fiji. Do you think there are any similarities?
Yes, definitely there are similarities, because, yes, like you've said, we are surrounded by mountains and they're surrounded by sea. But then similarities as in, it's a tourist driving country now. It's a complete tourist hotspot destination now. And as that our country is also a big tourist destination. It's just that we haven't been able to promote it as much, to achieve as much goals as that we have thought of. But weather-wise, we almost have similar weather there. People are almost almost the same. The behavior-wise, and since it's basically was populated with the Indian origins for a very long time. Now it's only 38%, but for a very long time it is more than 70% of Indian origin Fijians. So there are so many similarities that bounds us together. Even though there are things that is completely different context of like what you've said.
So I hear that there are only some 2,000 Nepali people living in Fiji.
Yeah, and there are students who are actually studying in the Fiji universities. But like I've said, all this past decade, I mean, that number is really less. Traveling, people coming from Fiji to Nepal and Nepal from Fiji has been not so much that we would have liked. And that is mainly because the lack of promotion, perhaps, and lack of knowledge of what each country is to each other, to its people, right? So, yeah, now definitely, I mean, these are the areas that we're going to work on, and then see how we can managed to get it in a higher scale now.
So you, as a young honorary consul, will you also be working primarily with the bureaucratic issues of the consular office, or will you mostly be dealing with the trade relations and promotional activities between the two countries? What is your mandate really like?
Everything comes, as a whole package, I think. But if you ask me personally, I think my major responsibility is to increase in whatever you've just said about trade. Not only trade, there are so many prospects of areas that we can work on. For instance, trade was one, and education, health, and of course tourism. So there are so many things, and also the investment. As we had the meetings with the ministers, with our ambassador from Fiji, I guess everyone is pretty much open about even the investment in the foreign land. So yeah, there are so many prospects that we can actually work on. Yeah.
On a slightly personal note, have you come across any concerns or suggestions from people who have considered you probably young, really young for this job, and you seem to have broken the stereotype clearly. So do you think there are any challenges that you anticipate in this process, especially because people think you're so young?
Yes, actually this also can be a little tricky, because when you talk about the bureaucrats or the consuls, you basically think of people who are very experienced and who have seen things and done things in the political career, as well as the diplomacy, bureaucracy and everything. But I actually have to learn a lot because I'm so new about it. But for me, I think, yes, there are challenges, of course. The challenges for me would be only presenting the goal to the country. And I think that is that only should matter. If I can do that, challenges are hurdled upon, I guess.
I would like to ask you another question about what is it that is very particular about Nepal that you think that people in Fiji can know about, besides Mount Everest and Lord Buddha was born in Nepal, all the hype about it. What do you think are other, besides those, that people in Fiji can associate with Nepal?
There are so many things, to be honest, yes. There are so many things, as in, Fiji basically imports a lot, even when we talk on the trade front. And they import a lot from Australia and then New Zealand and then even India. And so when they import things from India, our neighbor country, we basically deal with almost the same thing. For instance, spices and the basic general things of life. And they import rice and the usual things. So trade is there, and like you said, apart from Mount Everest and Gautam Buddha, we have our tourism to promote, because that's not only the attraction of our country. To be honest, there are so many things to be seen other than the stereotypical both icons. So trade and tourism, and then also they are very much keen on having a coalition of health as well, healthcare. So there are areas that we can work on. So there are several things that we can definitely work on, apart from just Mount Everest and Gautam Buddha.
I'd also like to ask a question that would be of particular relevance to young entrepreneurs like yourself, who are probably watching this show, might be wondering if there's any front where they as entrepreneurs can work in Fiji and collaborate between two governments in any way, if there's any platform that young entrepreneurs can have, and if there's anything they can expect from you as an honorary consul now.
Definitely. I would be welcoming any business queries at all from my office who are interested in Fiji, given the fact that they go through the government of Nepal's requirement. Yes, basically, as having a consulate office here in Nepal, the basic idea is to promote everything, as you've said, and we are definitely there to promote and everything, given the fact everything is done by the right way.
So this office is in Thapatali?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So is it very accessible to young people?
It is absolutely, yes.
And is it also open to public queries regarding?
Absolutely, yes, anytime.
That's a great issue.
Absolutely.
That's a great news. I'd like to ask you a question really about what do you think that despite your good intentions and young mind and all the vibrant blood that you have, do you think the political uncertainty of this country or of Fijian government will affect the relation between Fiji and Nepal in any way in terms of economic diplomacy and any other relation that it has?
It's a good question actually, because whatever we've gone through before, the insurgency and the political instability throughout these years. Even the Fiji went through their military coup and everything, and the thing is, they are also now developing, because they're having an election very soon. I think after September 2014, if I'm not mistaken. And our government is also forming, and it's starting to become a bit stable than what it was before. So the political scenario is such that I am very hopeful that it will only grow to be better now. Both the countries will have better, stable government, and that will only lead to a better, stable economic coalition or any other affiliation that the government could have without having any unrest in the government as such.
Yeah, as they say, foreign policy is all about extension of domestic policy.
Absolutely.
In every way. I'd also like to ask you about what young students can anticipate when, if as you have just become an honorary consul, what are the academic opportunities that they can look out for in terms of Fiji? I hear that they have great medical courses which are reasonable for students as well. So what are the major courses that students look out for when they think of Fiji?
I think they have very good academic backup for actually hospitality rather than hospital. So our country is also booming up in the hospitality section. There are a lot of students I see who wants to dwell into this education as such. And since I'm also looking after the education for my company, I see a lot of opportunity for students, exchange students and everything on a very first say the finance wise, because at the end of the day it is finance that's going to hit them hard, right, when you go outside to study. So finance wise also it will make a lot of sense, and the degrees are considered to be very well appreciated throughout the Southeast Pacific region, and not only that, all over the world actually. So I mean, yes, hospitality is definitely one of the most strongest academic background that we can definitely, for the starters. I mean, there are so many as well, but the starters, yeah.
I'd like to ask you about the kind of responses that you've elicited from the government of Nepal.
Right.
If you've had any official response, what sort of response that you've received from government, and what kind of congratulatory remarks that you've received, and if it has helped you in any way to really start your path towards being an honorary consul.
It's been, I think, just few days. To be honest, it's pretty new for now. But actually, I've been very fortunate because I had the opportunity to meet Prime Minister and foreign ministers and all the secretaries, and they were very kind. They were very supportive, to be honest. They were very kind and supportive, and most of them were present in the ceremonial function as well to extend their support for the upcoming, the tenure as my honorary consul. So, yeah, I mean, looking forward to their support and everything, and I'm very hopeful that whatever I do, I have the support of my government to make it flourish. Yeah.
Mr. Shakya, I'd like to ask you a question about how economic diplomacy as a foreign policy can be furthered through bilateral relations of Nepal and Fiji.
Like we've discussed before as well, I mean, when the bilateral relationship, which now will start, we're looking after different pathways where we can, follow the path and reach the expected terms of goals for mutual benefits, trade, education, and healthcare. Everything when that starts happening, definitely there is, I hope that, and I believe that the economic boom is there. For instance, trade is always there. That Nepal has so many things that could be imported to Fiji, or there are so many things from Fiji that could be imported by Nepal itself. And education is there, and healthcare is there. That we've already been in talk with His Excellency, and he's very keen upon trying to have the discussions about the possibility of healthcare done from Nepal to there, because there are lots of people from Fiji who would come all the way down to India, for the checkups and everything. So if there is something that would be worked out, why not? Nepal is not so far. And about the tourism, I think the major hindrance has been distance. And people doesn't know, and it's very far in the general perception. But now, I think we have a lot of people traveling to Australia and New Zealand for holidays, and it's not very far from New Zealand and Australia, and it's a beautiful place that people would like to go once they know that it's accessible. And also from the people of Fiji that maybe they wouldn't know where Nepal is because it's very far, but at the same time they would come down to India for various purposes, for healthcare or for tourism, for business purpose. So when they can come down to India, Nepal is not very far either. It's just 1 hour flight, 1 hour 15 hour flight, I think. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that way we can counter the distance related issues as well.
It's something people really have this myth that Fiji is some place really far.
It is very far. I mean, I won't lie, it is very far. But then again, it's not so far that it's not going to be accessible at all. Yeah. I mean, it is actually accessible than what people might think.
We've come to the concluding session of the talk program. I'd like to ask you, on a slightly positive note, what do you recommend young people to take up? What sort of leadership exercises do you want young people to take up so that they can envision themselves as an honorary consul someday? And it's almost always said in Nepal that diplomatic missions and consular missions are sometimes given as token prizes.
Right.
So what do you think, how can people dispel that myth that these missions and these awards are given on the basis of merit and not as token prizes? What kind of positive message would you like to send out to the young people out there?
As you've asked me this question, I would like to tell you that just a few days back we did have meetings with our chief of protocol, and actually this whole issue about consularship being just a token and just a privilege was discussed, and then now I think the government itself is taking a step about it, and I think it's going to be the meetings every month, and you've got to present your reports and everything. So you have to show your government that what you are actually doing as a consul. You cannot just have a blue number plate and sit at home and just travel in the car. It's more like what you've done in the diplomatic front as well now. So that's one part that's definitely gonna push you to actually work on your position that you are given. And as far as the young, like you said, young breed of consuls is concerned, but I think my only view is the new generation that we have now. Have definitely the new ideas, and they do not follow the stereotypical conservativeness of the thoughts. They want to bring out what they think is right, and more often than not, it's always right. Something happens for the benefit of whatever they're doing. It's bringing out the best of things that they're working on. So I'm definitely hopeful that more people who would have the opportunity to have this consulship or any other diplomatic missions, I'm very hopeful that things will move forward and things will take a major turn in the diplomatic front as well, or the consulship or any other given positions, when the new generation will eventually take over slowly. So yeah.
Indeed. The young people should also have the mindset to
Absolutely.
seize the opportunity when they have
That's always right. Absolutely.
They have a sort of negative idea towards the
True, very
world.
true.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shakya.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so
much.
We would like to extend all the best and all our best wishes for your tenure as an honorary consul.
Thank you very much.
It goes without saying that a strong bilateral relations between nations is emblematic of their strong foreign policy. In modern time, we have emerged with new economic landscape which has offered us opportunities for trade, economic aspects, investment, and a whole lot of other things. Thank you for watching us. We will reunite with you next Saturday, 7:30 in the morning. Next week, we will be back with yet another foreign policy avenue to be explored. Until then, have a great week. Namaste.
गतिसँग हैन सुरक्षासँग प्रतिस्पर्धा गरौँ बाटो काट्दा जेब्रा क्रसिङको प्रयोग गरौँ गाडी चालकहरूले पैदल यात्रीलाई प्राथमिकता दिउँ रातो बत्ती बलेको बेला बाटो काट्ने गरौँ जथाभावी बाटो काटेर दुर्घटनाको समाचार नबनौँ आकाशे पुल प्रयोग गरी सभ्य नागरिकको परिचय दिउँ दमकल एम्बुलेन्सलाई प्राथमिकता दिउँ पैदल यात्रीले फुटपाथको प्रयोग गरौँ। ट्राफिक चिन्हको जानकारी हासिल गरौँ। गाडीमा झुन्डिएर यात्रा नगरौँ। अरूलाई बाधा पुग्ने गरी सवारी पार्क नगरौँ। मादक पदार्थ सेवन गरी सवारी नचलाऊ। सवारी चलाउँदा मोबाइलको प्रयोग नगरौँ। सवारी चलाउँदा अनिवार्य सिट बेल्टको प्रयोग गरौँ। साइरनवाला गाडीलाई प्राथमिकता दिउँ। ट्राफिक नियम पालना गरौँ।